3 months ago, my husband started waking up 10 minutes before his alarm every single morning. Then he started answering questions before I finished asking them. Last night, I watched him sleep peacefully in our bed while, at the exact same time, I heard him in the kitchen making coffee. I don't know which one I married anymore, and I don't know how much longer I can keep pretending I haven't noticed. I need to write this down somewhere, because I'm starting to doubt my own memory of when things actually changed, and I need at least one honest record of what's been happening before I lose track of the timeline entirely. My husband, Mark, has always been a fairly predictable person, same routine every morning, same small habits, same way of finishing his coffee before checking his phone. About 3 months ago, small things started shifting. Nothing dramatic at first. He started waking up before his alarm, always by exactly 10 minutes, every single day, regardless of how late he'd stayed up the night before. I asked him about it once, casually. He said he'd just started naturally waking up earlier, no explanation beyond that, and didn't seem bothered by the question at all. The answering. The next thing I noticed was smaller, easier to dismiss individually, but impossible to ignore once I started paying attention. Mark began answering questions I hadn't finished asking. Not guessing correctly out of familiarity, the way long-married couples sometimes do, actually answering the specific words I was about to say, sometimes even the exact phrasing, before I'd spoken more than the first few words. I started testing it without telling him, asking unusual, unpredictable questions I was certain he couldn't anticipate through simple familiarity. Every time, he answered correctly, sometimes finishing my sentence entirely before I'd said enough for any reasonable person to guess where it was going. I asked him directly if he could explain it. He looked at me with genuine confusion, insisting he wasn't doing anything unusual, that he was simply answering normally, and seemed almost hurt that I was making an issue out of something he clearly didn't perceive as strange at all. The kitchen. Last week, unable to sleep, I got up around 2 a.m. and went to check on something in the kitchen. Mark was already there, standing at the counter, making coffee despite the hour, not saying anything as I approached. I asked him why he was up so early. He didn't answer right away, just continued making coffee with movements that were technically identical to his usual routine but somehow slightly wrong, too smooth, too economical, missing the small unconscious habits he'd developed over years of doing exactly this same task every morning. When he finally spoke, his voice was correct in every detail, exactly Mark's voice, exactly his usual tone. But something about the timing felt off, a half-second delay before each word that I couldn't have articulated to anyone else without sounding insane. I went back to bed without finishing the conversation. When I looked toward our bedroom on my way back, Mark was there too, asleep in our bed, breathing slowly and steadily, exactly where he should have been the entire time. I stood in the hallway for a long time that night, looking back and forth between the kitchen and the bedroom, unable to reconcile what I was seeing in both places at once. Trying to understand. I didn't sleep at all after that. The next morning, Mark woke up at his normal 10 minutes early time, made coffee exactly as he always did, and greeted me with his usual warmth, seemingly unaware anything unusual had happened during the night. I asked him, carefully, if he remembered getting up around 2 a.m. He said he'd slept through the entire night without waking up once, which I knew, factually, wasn't true, because I had personally seen him standing in our kitchen at that exact hour. I started watching him more closely after that, noticing small details I'd previously overlooked. He'd started using his left hand for tasks he'd always done with his right, small things like stirring coffee or holding his phone, switching back so quickly and naturally that I could have easily dismissed it as nothing if I hadn't already been looking for exactly this kind of inconsistency. I found myself, increasingly, unable to tell which small behaviors were genuinely him and which were subtle deviations I'd only now started noticing because I was finally paying close enough attention. The test. 3 nights ago, I decided to test something directly, unable to continue living in this uncertain state without at least attempting to understand what was actually happening. I waited until Mark had fallen asleep, confirmed by his steady breathing beside me, and quietly got up to check the rest of the house. The kitchen was empty. The living room was empty. Every room was exactly as it should have been, with Mark asleep in our bed and nothing unusual anywhere else in the house. I went back to bed, relieved despite myself, and fell asleep sometime after 3 a.m. I woke up the next morning to Mark already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at me with an expression I'd genuinely never seen him wear before, patient, and curious, and entirely too calm for the situation, as though he already knew exactly what I'd been doing the night before, exactly what test I'd been running, and had simply allowed me to complete it without interference. He said, very quietly, "You won't find both of us at the same time anymore." I've gotten better at that. I didn't ask him what he meant. I didn't ask him anything at all. I got up, got dressed, and left for work early, unable to be in that room with him for another moment. Now, I don't know how to explain what's happening to anyone without sounding like I've completely lost my grip on reality. Mark, or whatever is currently occupying that role in my life, continues behaving almost identically to how he always has, loving, attentive, familiar in every important way that matters day to day. It's only in these small, specific moments, the early waking, the answered questions, the wrong-handed gestures, that single impossible night in the kitchen, that I catch glimpses of something underneath the familiarity that I can't fully name or explain to myself, let alone to anyone else. I don't know if there are two of him now, taking turns, or if there's only ever been one, and what I'm actually noticing is something slower and more gradual than a simple duplication, something replacing him, piece by piece, so carefully and patiently that by the time I fully understand what's happened, there won't be enough of the original left for me to even miss. I keep thinking about what he said that morning. You won't find both of us at the same time anymore. I've gotten better at that. I don't know what better means for whatever comes next. I'm not sure I want to be awake enough, some future night, to actually find out.